Animals have always been by our side. They keep us company, show us affection. But what if some of them were hiding something more? What if, behind their gaze, lurked something that shouldn't exist? In this video, I'll tell you 2 real horror stories about animals. The first is about Nix, a cat with unsettling behavior who seems to know more than he should. The second is about Good Boy, a creature that first appeared harmless, until it made it clear that it wasn't. If you think animals are always adorable and predictable, get ready to change your mind. Turn off the lights, get comfortable, and join me for these 2 chilling stories. It's been 2 weeks since I adopted my cat. 2 weeks I would give anything to take back. It all started with a Facebook post. I live on the outskirts of town in a quiet suburban area with very few neighbors. Finding a post offering a free cat was rare, almost impossible. But there it was. The picture showed a small black cat with short fur and striking cerulean blue eyes. They seemed to glow with an unnatural light, vibrant and hypnotic. Something about its gaze made me uneasy, and yet I didn't hesitate to contact the owner. It was strange, very strange. Most people either sell purebred cats or ask for an adoption fee, but this one was being given away with no conditions. I had been looking for a companion for months. Living alone had become an unbearable weight. I had a cat when I was younger, back when I lived with my parents, but we never truly bonded. Still, I knew enough about feline behavior and care. When I saw that post, I felt something warm bubbling in my chest, like this was fate. Like this cat had been waiting for me. If I had known what I know now, I would have ignored that post. The next day, after a short drive, the owner and I met at my house. "Thanks for coming all the way here," I said. The man barely nodded. Something about him made my skin crawl. Despite the dim light of my porch, his face remained hidden in shadows. I could only make out his lips, pale, almost gray. "Sure," he replied in a hollow voice. He held a carrier in one hand. The cat was inside. A heavy sensation pressed against my chest, like the air had thickened around me. I didn't know why, but something inside me was screaming to shut the door and pretend this wasn't happening. "What's its name?" I asked, trying to break the silence. The man didn't answer. The world seemed to pause. The night breeze stopped moving. The feeling that something was terribly wrong tightened in my stomach. And then he finally spoke. "You should know something," he muttered, pushing the carrier toward me. "It's not what it seems." I didn't know what to say, and before I could ask anything, he was already gone. Those words stayed with me the rest of the night. It's not what it seems. From the very first moment, the cat adjusted perfectly. I named her Nix, after the Greek goddess of the night. Her sleek black fur and silent movements made the name fit perfectly. Nix was playful and affectionate. She followed me everywhere, rubbed against my legs, and at night, she curled up next to me, kneading my blanket with her paws. She was the perfect companion. Until the little things started happening. The first time I noticed something odd was one night while watching TV. Everything was quiet until I heard a sound coming from the kitchen. A deep, guttural growl. It was an impossible sound, neither human nor animal. I stood up immediately and walked toward the kitchen. It was completely dark. I turned on the light. Nix was sitting in the middle of the room, standing upright. She was on her hind legs, her front paws stretched out as if reaching for something unseen. Her eyes no longer glowed. They were black voids, empty and lifeless. But as soon as the light flooded the room, Nyx returned to normal. She sat on the floor, tilted her head, and meowed, a low, raspy sound, the same sound I had heard in the darkness. A chill ran down my spine. Something about that meow was wrong. From that moment on, everything changed. Nyx was no longer the energetic, playful cat she used to be. She became distant, disappearing for hours, and when I finally found her, it was like she was waiting. Her shadow started to change. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. But no. When she walked past a lamp, I noticed that her silhouette on the wall didn't match her body. It was larger, elongated. Her front legs seemed too long compared to her back legs. Her head looked strangely disproportionate. And the worst part, sometimes when she wasn't in the room, her shadow still was. As days passed, the sounds began. A deep murmuring at night. The floor creaking when I knew I was alone. A whisper against my ear just as I was about to fall asleep. Things spiraled out of control. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I always felt like something was watching me. And then, the final night came. The sound woke me up, a thud in my bedroom. My heart pounded. "Night?" I murmured in the darkness. But what answered me was not my cat. "It's so nice to see you again." My blood ran cold. The voice was deep, twisted. My hands trembled as I reached for the lamp. What I saw, Nyx was on my bed. But she was no longer Nyx. Her jaw had stretched grotesquely, hanging loose down to her chest. Her teeth were sharp, irregular, yellow. Her skin was torn in places, revealing dark, wet flesh. One of her eyes dangled from its socket, swinging like a pendulum. Her front legs were too long. Her claws dug into the blanket as if she was about to pounce on me. I don't... The words died in my throat. "Don't you remember?" The creature smiled. It smiled. "I am Nyx." And then it moved. I don't remember how I ran out of the house. I just know I ran. Now I'm in the woods, alone, lost. My phone battery is low. I'm writing this in case someone finds it. If I don't update again, I'm dead. Something is crunching the leaves behind me. A hot breath brushes against my neck. This isn't a cat, not a demon. It's something worse. I'm really scared that something bad will happen today. For the last month, the thing I've named Good Boy has been coming into my garden every weekday. It was January 26th, a cold morning when I first saw it. It was scruffy. I could see sore patches of skin where the hair had fallen out. Yet I felt like I was looking at an old family friend. Like being shown a faded photograph of relatives who died before you were born, yet somehow you feel a connection you can't quite explain. I'm terrified of dogs. When I was little, a friend got bitten while we were playing. It bled a lot, though I think I remember more blood than there actually was. But they needed stitches, and since then I've been afraid. I avoid all dogs, big or small. But Good Boy was different. He was kind. I think he came because I was lonely. He knew I needed someone I didn't have. A friend, someone to fill the void left by parents who were never around. And when they were, They were constantly checking emails or on the phone with some higher-up for work. Good Boy was the friend I needed, a distraction from the emptiness. Until yesterday, I looked forward to seeing him. He changed his appearance every day. Once he came with legs so long I could see him over the garden gate, tall and stretched like a cartoon character. Other times he was completely hairless, his fingers dragging along the ground behind him like a trail of snakes. And that was fine. He was harmless. Good Boy was being a good boy. Yesterday was different. He came into the garden, but he moved with a coldness. He looked more human, if that's the right way to describe it. He stood up on his hind legs. He was tall, like a large man. Then he reached up to his face and parted his lips with long, crooked fingers, fingers that looked like they had been badly damaged. He pried his mouth open, and a large, gum-filled void stared back at me. It felt like he was mocking me. I didn't know what to do. My body was telling me to run, but I froze. I didn't want to turn my back on him. I didn't want to break eye contact. I felt like he wanted to hurt me. His eyes saw me as prey. Those blank, shiny eyes. He had never opened his mouth before. I wanted to call him a bad boy, but I didn't want to die. Not like that, in that toothless mouth. He stood there, holding that awful, gaping expression, watching me. Then, slowly, he sat back down, his face seeming more and more human, more like a stranger. And then he spoke. "Thank you for letting me into your life. Now come with me to mine." He stood up again and walked out of the garden, his body contorting slightly, just enough to be wrong. And I felt sick. Right now, I'm hiding in my house. It's almost 6 p.m. I don't know what's going to happen, but he's dangerous. I know it. I know today will be bad, really bad. I think he wants me dead. I want to believe I'm going crazy, that Good Boy was never real. It was just my imagination, wasn't it? Just my imagination. Good Boy never really came into my garden, did he? I'm just crazy, right? Please tell me I'm crazy. Please.